Oh man. So I was just innocently reading this Bloomberg article about Silksong and why it took 7 years to make. And I'm actually making a video on that for my second channel. So a little bit of self promotion here. Yeah, anyways, go check out my second channel. I just put out a video on Battlefield 6, and yeah, I'm working on one on Silksong. And ironically, in that script, I talk about how studios could learn a lot from Team Cherry because they actually took their time with Silksong to make it the best game that they could be. And we know at Bungie they prioritize velocity over quality. And the guy that was responsible for that quote is now actually the head of Destiny. As we'll get to, Justin Truman has been promoted to take over for Pete Parsons. But yeah, needless to say, my mentions just started blowing up on Twitter. Again, there's another plug, and back to Silksong. I'm going to be streaming that on Monday, so come watch me at It's Tizzle 7. So yeah, I think that's all the self-promotion I need to do, and let's just jump into it. There was a Twid today, as there always is on Thursdays. I didn't read it, obviously, because I'm not playing the game, but then my Twitter exploded, as you can see with all the tabs at the top of my screen. So I did give it a little look over and kind of just went off what people on Twitter are saying. So I could have some things wrong. We'll talk about it. But the first thing we got to get to is Bungie. They rarely post, and they said, "We're proud to announce that Justin Truman will be stepping up as Bungie's new studio head as Pete Parsons retires from his position to pass the torch to a new generation of leaders." And then there's just a message from Pete Parsons talking about blah, 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 and whatever else. He was asked to lead in 2015, and people could argue that was like the beginning of the downfall of Bungie from their glory days as like a startup indie studio and what they have devolved into now. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Justin Truman did have some funny ones. He is self-deprecating, so at least maybe he has a shred of self-awareness. He says, "As a designer, I helped craft many of our Destiny 2 systems, including some of the endgame systems I got terribly wrong at Destiny 2 launch." Yeah, people thought that Destiny 2 launch was a huge regression from Destiny 1. So the fact that this guy just he got promoted in May to like head of Destiny, where before he was like the general manager at Bungie or something, back when he gave the GDC talk in 2022 after the Witch Queen's success. And then, yeah, so he failed upward in like May sometime, and now he failed upward again to be like the leader of Bungie. So even though Destiny is being destroyed and Marathon looks to be headed down that same path, somehow he keeps failing upwards. So that is quite interesting. But I did think it was funny that he was in charge sort of Endgame, which was the thing that was like one of the most panned things at D2 launch. And like I said, it just felt like they really regressed from D1 and all the work they had done to build a good game with D1, actually. And I mean, Destiny 2 did recover. We've had some good times in it. I'm not going to say that it was never good, but I will say that Justin Truman was probably more like, it wasn't good because of him. It was good in spite of him and some of his philosophies. So I just thought that was interesting. So anyways, he is now the leader of Bungie. So yes, I know we meme on Pete Parsons for his car collection and all this, but your new leader, as far as I'm concerned, is no better. They need just a complete overhaul of management, and they need a huge overhaul in general. But now that we've got that out of the way, let's look at this Twid and some of the reactions that people have to it. So here we have T-Storm. This might be the worst Twid of all time, the history of this game. Not even just changes pertaining to not swap and epic raid and all that. What is this change? So basically, a lot of people have rightfully been upset with the power grind. I've been memeing on it a little on Twitter. Mactix just had a post where he's just more or less relieved that he's done. And pretty much everyone that's done the power climb to 450 has just said how awful it is and how happy they are to be done. It's no sense of accomplishment. They're not like, oh man, like what a great power grind. That was so awesome. Like, it's nothing more than a time sink. There's no skill involved. So anyways, people have been upset about how long it takes to reach 450 because of the prime engram trickle feed, basically. You just have to run solo ops over and over, or things like Encore and Kelsfall, I guess, and Starcrossed. So basically, people are saying that they want everything to be more rewarding across the game so that you don't just have to live in the mines and farm solo ops over and over and over again. So here they have reduced, actually, how rewarding the more rewarding activities are. So Encore, Starcrossed, and Whisper, they're reducing the rewards that you get from a bunch of the chests rather than buffing everything else. So this is right on the heels of the Solstice event, which, again, I don't even play the game anymore. I'm just going off Twitter sentiment and basically community sentiment because, yeah, I actually do like the community. I think there's some wonderful people in this community. I just dislike Bungie. So anyways, they all wanted things to be buffed. Bungie even said, I couldn't find the exact quote, but maybe link it to me in my Discord if you can find it. But recently, I know I did see something about, they said the leveling system is not where they want it to be in its current state. And there was a lot of people on Twitter being like, oh, thank God they're going to change it. It's best to just wait, blah, blah, blah. And now it seems like they're reducing stuff. And in fairness to them, again, I didn't read this super in depth and I'm not in the know on anything too much anymore. But before I get to that, this Bungie Rewards extension is quite hilarious as well. The Desert Perpetual Bungie reward dates have been extended. Players now have until December 5th to complete the new raid so that they can unlock the privilege to purchase a raid jacket and a raid sling bag. And then they show them off. That just reeks of desperation to me. It tells me that they probably didn't get as many orders as they wanted. On top of extending the right to purchase things, the Solstice store things that you can buy for silver at Eververse have been extended 1 week. Solstice is no longer around, but you can still apparently buy things from Eververse that are Solstice themed. So yeah, I think they're literally just desperate for money. They're grasping at straws here. But yeah, basically they're talking about incoming improvements and this and that. Again, I don't know how all this stuff works, and people have panned me in the comments for that. Whatever. Again, I'm more touching on the general community sentiment than being an expert on the game anymore. Because, yeah, my entire Twitter feed is that. And I don't help myself by making these videos because I interact with the posts, so that is what my feed is because of how algorithms work. But you know how it is. Basically, as Justin Truman pointed out in his GDC talk, they love to look at data and base things in the game around their data. And in this Silksong thing, I actually talk about how refreshing it is to read about developers that are just purely making their game for fun and the enjoyment of the player. But that's not Destiny. Destiny is very data-driven, so they look at the time it takes to complete things. And again, instead of buffing up the things that take longer, actually, I do think they are. I know they did say somewhere in here that they are buffing it. As such, we will be making the following changes for their rewards. Liminality, increased to 2. Inverted Spire, increased to 2. Onslaught Widow's Court, increased to 4. So, I mean, Twitter's Twitter. People are going to be hyperbolic on it. But they have, sort of addressed these issues. But again, why are you nerfing the good things? Bring everything up to the level that the good things are. Don't nerf the good things. Improve the bad things. But they don't seem to get that. And then there's this whole not swap stuff as well. Again, it is hard for Bungie to win here because a lot of people complain about menu gameplay and this and that. So they do want to fix it in some ways because people were complaining that you had to do so many swaps on day one raid. But day one raid also launched 3 days after the raid, after a ton of new systems changes. So yeah, it's so hard to say. If people actually had optimized builds and knew how the systems worked better like they do now, maybe it wouldn't have been such a requirement. All that to say is, here's GLAD, create a level playing field for players, yet enabling featured gear set bonuses, which will greatly be advantageous for those who spent 300 hours running 2 missions to gather a full set of tier 5 gear. Again, I don't know exactly how these gear set bonuses work, but I do know tier 5 weapons. I guess he's saying gear. When I think of gear, I think of armor. But yeah, tier 5 weapons do have a damage bonus, as far as I know. So yeah, people that are able to get tier 5s, which is only from a time sink, not from a skill differential. And Glad is a guy that he's extremely skilled, but he just doesn't grind the game like other people do, because he's streaming other good games. But then he says, okay, man, sure, this whole raid race is such a meme, which I kind of agree with him on. It's not really a true raid race, in my opinion, because people know the mechanics. But anyways, it'll still be fun. I liked that raid thing. I don't know if I'm going to tune in. But CB Gray and Evan did a great job on the last raid race, and I had a lot of fun watching it. But yeah, they say with the release of the Epic Raid, to keep success in encounters focused on action gameplay and create a level playing field for players across platforms, we're rolling out a new version of Not Swap for contest mode. Maybe I can find that here quickly. Let me see. Not Swap. Go up. Oh, it's because I'm in this picture. So, yeah, basically, it's like an enhanced version, because I think before it was just like, if you swapped subclasses, obviously you're going to lose your abilities, but if you swapped exotics, you would lose it. Now it's this modifier will now reset your super and ability energy, special ammo, and heavy ammo, as well as remove all ammo and orbs on the ground when you change exotic or legendary armor or weapon ammo types. So maybe you could swap from like rocket sidearm to rocket sidearm, but if you wanted to go rocket sidearm to rocket pulse rifle, then sounds like you're going to lose your special ammo, because people have been able to exploit this. Like there was the bipod rockets back in the day, could give you like full heavy on a different one. Certain things are just good for swapping, and like you see it with Lord of Wolves a lot because it's a powerful special. So people would run, yeah, like a rocket sidearm, something with deep reserves, and then you could swap to Lord of Wolves. But this modifier will also take effect when 3 or more feats are activated in the standard difficulty of the Epic Raid. So full disclosure, I checked out Giggs's team. They did like 5 feet raid 1 phases. I still like watching that stuff. Again, I don't hate the game of Destiny. I hate Bungie. Yeah, it's like I'm having fun playing other games, and I don't really want to come back to Destiny, but I still like tuning in. So I do like seeing these crazy 1 phase raid boss things. I like watching that kind of stuff. Zemo, I'll get to, when he was setting all the world records in like Duality and Warlord's Ruin. I like watching that stuff, but you have to be able to swap armor pieces to do those world record runs, and it's really fun to watch. So now anything with 3 or more feats, this is going to be active. So you're just killing your most dedicated players' desire to grind. Like they're 1-phasing these bosses, which is fun as hell to watch. I love watching the hyper optimization. Let them break the sandbox to the best of their ability, but as we know, Bungie likes to be the fun police, so that's a no-go now, guys. So that was Glad. Here's G Miners. I'm so happy all the armor I grinded for solid mid-game stats are now useless, and now I'm going to need to refarm some whack hybrid max super mid-game stat sets. This is sick. So yeah, I think he's referring to, he's very balanced here on his stats, and now he's going to need spikes in like super and weapon damage so that he can be optimal for doing hard raid challenges. I don't know exactly if that's what it's in reference to. The point is, the community sentiment is bad. From Glad, T-Storm, and now G Miners, and many more that we're going to get to. And then, yeah, this guy makes a good point. Do nothing and get rewarded. The Bungie special. Very, very true. The longer you wait to play Destiny, the more it pays off for you. T-Storm again. So let me get this straight. Bungie wants us to go through this obscene grind to get to 450 to get everything to be tier 5 armor, so we can grind a bunch of armor to use for unique builds for every single scenario. But then we can't even build craft to the fullest in endgame raids. Yes, exactly. That's pretty much what I was talking about the 3 feet thing. And now you can't use, like, there's not swap active. Yeah, so exactly what he's saying is exactly right. Water, I can't wait to take 10 minutes to load into a tower. I thought of this when I read that as well. Into the tower full of PS4 people to walk over and decrypt my 5th heavy drop in a fucking row. So this is quite funny. Prime engrams, this is basically what people need on their 400 to 450 power grind. So normally you would just get a drop like you used to, but now they're spinning it like this is good. So they're saying They no longer auto-decrypt in Ashen Iron. Instead, you will need to take them to Master Rahul to find out what you got, just like Destiny 1. Yay, nostalgia, guys! Isn't that awesome? You get to take 10 minutes to load into the fucking tower because they won't drop last-gen console support. And then, as Water says, they also don't have dupe protection. Still, like, I remember, god damn, this is like 4 years ago. I think it was Beyond Light. I needed legs for 3 weeks in a row on my hunter. My other two characters, they were max level. 3 weeks, I just kept not getting legs, doing every single pinnacle in the game. And yeah, so now, instead of like running solo ops, you get your prime engram, and then it's like, oh, is it a dupe or is it something good? Now you're going to have to stop what you're doing, stop your grind, fly into the tower, go decrypt it, hope it's something you need. Yeah, the fact we don't have dupe protection in 2025 is crazy. And then MJ actually, let's see what he's saying, the low man legend. Oh my gosh, guys, it's just like Destiny 1. I'm so exploiting. Why would I want it to auto-decrypt when I can spend 10 minutes loading into the tower? So exactly what I'm saying. They're trying to hype it up like it's nostalgia. Just, oh my god. So Hazel, no exaggeration, this might be one of the worst Twids ever. Genuinely nothing in this brings me hope for the next few months, and I would not be shocked to see them forced to course correct most of these decisions in time. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked either, given the community sentiment, but nothing at Bungie moves quickly. Another thing I said in this Silksong video that I'm working on is how they could like implement a change and it would be in the game very, very quickly. This studio is very small, so they move very fast. They're very agile. And again, it's just something that more studios should try to be like. Bungie probably used to be like that when they were small, but now they're a behemoth with tons of bureaucratic red tape and management pretty much stifling every positive change that they could make in a decent amount of time. GSXR Clyde, think I just read the worst tweet of all time. Why is Bungie so out of touch with the player base? It's honestly baffling. Like, people saying, oh, it's a new system, it'll get better by renegades, this and that. Quit bag licking for Bungie. As he says here, why are they so out of touch with the player base? You've been doing this since 2014, building a game with your player base, and yet you still make baffling decisions time and time and time again. It's either intentional or they're out of touch. I don't know which it is or which is worse. But yeah, they say we're listening, but again, listening is like passive. What are you actively doing to make the game better? And it seems like most of the changes they make are just making it actively worse, which is why I stopped playing, because well, more my thing was just the bugs, but then when I heard of all the changes coming in Edge of Fate, I was like, yeah, this game isn't for me anymore. So I moved on, and yeah, I'm pumped to play Hollow Knight and Hollow Knight Silksong for the next few weeks. Gonna be honest, this is Forcer. Gonna be honest, unless I was misreading things, this was probably a top 10, maybe top 5 worst TWAB of all time. Outside of like 3 changes, most of these changes just seem like they're going to make the game worse. So he's at least balanced. Yeah, so these are... I fucking hated Season of the Plunder. So the fact that of all the sunset activities that they're wanting to bring back, they're bringing these back is insane. And there's a guy with Better Devils. But yeah, he's right here that I think some of the changes were positive, as I kind of gave them a little bit of grace at the start of the video. But for the most part, as you can see, people aren't happy with it. TB is much more hyperbolic about it. He says, so let me get this straight. They nuked Pinnacle Ops, nuked Solo Ops, didn't make Fire Team Ops more enticing. They made the raid experience / loot worse. See, this is where I disagree a little bit, because there is some stuff in here about like weekly raids will give you an extra drop. Again, it's very like minor. They should just be raining loot on you, because apparently no one's really doing the new raid, even though it's a good raid, but it's because it's not rewarding. So they could be raining loot on people, but instead they're just giving them like 1 more drop per run. And if it's a full run, you get like extra from the final boss, something like that. But just once a week, or maybe it's once per character, so 3 times, probably just once per account. Either way, I don't know the ins and outs. But I don't know if they made the raid experience / loot worse. They definitely made the experience potentially worse with that whole 3 feet not swap thing. But the loot worse, I think, is wrong. I think they actually improved it. Credit where it's due. They made contest worse. Hard to say. They're adding straight mid to the portal. Agreed by what I see here. and they made power more useless. I don't exactly know how that one worked, but power is useless. The only thing it is there for is a time sink so that you can get tier 5s. But getting tier 5s should be behind the hardest content in the game, not a level grind. Gigs, who has been a huge proponent for this expansion, like he's been playing D2 more than I've ever seen it, and I've seen him have tweets talking about how he's playing more D2 than ever, because as people are saying, the game is now built for streamers. So while most people hate it, a guy like Gigs, who's a hardcore grinder, one of the best players this game has ever seen, especially PvE/PvP, he's insanely cracked. So he's been a big proponent of Edge of Fate, and like I said, his team one-phased 5 feet raid recently, one-phased every single boss. So he loves being optimal and doing all this stuff. He's one of those guys that is like hardcore, super end game, super meta, like let's break the game, break the sandbox. And he says, not a fan of this at all, since it just limits your ability to utilize the sandbox. Exactly. These guys like to break the sandbox, the Zemos and the Gigses, to cater to someone who doesn't want to learn. Exactly. Like, people doing 3 feet raids, there's something like less than 10% of the player base even does raids. And then if you're adding feats on top of it, it just gets harder. So like, who is this for? Also, I can't stress enough that swapping loadouts is faster on controller than M&K. I saw a lot of people when all that loadout swapping discourse was going around, and it's true. I've seen some cracked M&K players. They swap loadouts extremely fast. So that whole... Okay, old gen consoles, I agree, because they can't load the menus quickly. But if it's like a PS5 Pro and you're on a controller, or say you just have a cracked rig, and one day you play M&K and one day you play controller, you can swap loadouts as quickly or quicker on a controller than you can M&K. That's just facts. But yeah, if your system is old and it can't load the menu, that's a whole different story. And he says, this makes gameplay so boring it hurts. Yeah, it is. Let's see what's happening here. So not a fan of this at all. It is the opposite. You have to build your character to deal with everything instead of swapping to deal with each part. And there is some validity to this, actually. And then Gig says, bro said it's the opposite, then described how it is indeed intended, or how it is indeed not the opposite. Anyways, this is sort of like what they're going for. As someone that solo GMs, so a locked loadout activity, you do have to plan your build around, okay, I need to, and I mean, this got a lot easier as time went on, especially post, Lightfall, when your abilities and things like Radiant could give you anti-barrier. But yeah, I remember doing Warden of Nothing, where there's actually 3, I did Warden of Nothing pre-Lightfall, so there was 3 champion types, and you had to be able to stun all 3, right? So, and you could only use weapons. Abilities weren't part of the sandbox then. So I had to really think about my loadout so that I could deal with overloads, unstops, and barrier champions, as well as cook the boss. And anyways, there is a lot of fun in that. But again, that's not fun for guys like Gigs who are trying to one-phase all the bosses. They like to be optimal. And this is what it comes down to. Let people play how they want to play. Put not swap as a modifier so that if you have not swap on and you complete the whole raid on a 5 feet, it's like it rains loot on you, or guaranteed tier 5s, even if you're at like 250 light. That's what it should be. Make not swap an incentive to use, not a hindrance. Here's Paul Tassi in the very next one. Can I please just make builds I like and use those builds without endless penalties? That's exactly the point that I'm trying to say, is you should incentivize people with not swap so that they have to build their builds in such a way that it does force them to consider DPS as well as ad clear, as well as all these things, right? And then incentivize that and reward that. Don't penalize players. So if Gigs doesn't give a shit about the loot and he's just trying to make cool YouTube videos where they one-phase bosses, let Gigs and his team do that. And if Thomas Jury wants to have not swap active and have to set up the build, like, that's a challenge in its own way. But again, reward it. Don't penalize the players that don't want to do it. And Paul Tassi's 100% right as well. When I saw that there was featured exotics, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, now you can only play with like 16 exotics per character per season when there's like 100 exotic armor pieces plus in the game. like, again, just let people play how they want. Sure, incentivize it in some way, but don't penalize it. Again, you have to reward, not penalize. And as we talked about, like, at the very start, they're like nerfing. Yeah, they're nerfing the most rewarding things instead of making the activities that are unrewarding better. It's just stupid. It's completely stupid. Benji, we're listening, by the way, and my reply was just, they listen, they just don't care. Because they've proven time and time again, they say they're listening, blah, 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 but actions are what matters, right? Like, who gives a fuck about what you have to say? What are you actually doing to prove that you care, or prove that you're hearing them? Yeah, you're listening, but you don't care. You're not making changes for the betterment of the community. Salted Grepo, I cannot stress enough how Contest Desert Perpetual did in no way need any loadout swaps mid-damage. People were just unfamiliar with the meta, and swap, of course, always helps. And yeah, it does always help, and these guys are trying to complete it for Worlds first, so they're gonna do what's most optimal. That said, if they want to try this, just lock loadouts on encounter start. Those hybrids make no sense. So yeah, he seems unhappy with it. I don't exactly get that one. And then this one is Zemo. I talked about him. He's like a dungeon speedrunner. I think he was the first player to ever solo flawless Root of Nightmares as well. I was a not swap believer, but the legendary armor swaps and them keeping the ammo conversion rule was what converted me. And then he says, it's a shame too, since with actual thought behind the system, it could really work, but the amount of loopholes I've thought of less than an hour of the announcement make it clear they haven't thought it through, which always happens. Straight up, the community is smarter than the developers. They find a way to break this game so fast. I have always praised the Destiny community. I love the community. They have such brilliant people. The people that like design D2 Armor Picker and how it can go through all your armor and optimize the stats like automatically. People that design Dim, like we have such smart people. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Oh, I can't think of it. I'm thinking of Stadia Time, and he is a very good player. Imagine a build. He was doing sort of like crazy DPS testing before Aegis came along, but between the two of them, the stuff that they have done, and a 2016 Toyota Corolla, how he built that boss damage meter stuff so that Aegis can do his testing. Again, the people in this community are brilliant beyond belief. And Zemo here, yeah, he's saying he's found so many loopholes. OG, this is Obama Gaming. He plays with like Salted Grepo, Clan Elysium, like obviously super good player. For sure, the devs do just not think the way that players do. The amount of loopholes is disgusting. So the top players will already find loopholes, but as Zemo says, the thought behind it could really work. And like I said in the one tweet, yeah, reward people for running not swap. Don't make it on by default so that it penalizes the players that don't want to engage with it. I've said for a long time that Bungie makes you play Destiny the way they want you to play. I always hated time gating in GMs. The whole GM thing is a completely different discussion right now. But I always hated that I couldn't just go run the GM that I want to run, because I liked testing my builds in GMs. And certain builds shine best in certain GMs. So I would want to get footage for a certain build, and I just couldn't because they're on a 6-week rotation. Let players play your fucking game the way they want to, and they just keep limiting the way that people can play. Sure, some people are still around, but people like me have left because of that, because of the lack of agency in the game. So anyways, that was just a big long rant that I decided to go on because, again, my tweet mentions and stuff were blowing up, and I wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. And yeah, so that's about it. I promoted myself at the start of the video, and I've yapped long enough. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Take care.